I want to buy an arcade cabinet, but where do I get it? Are they expensive? Do they require a lot of maintenance? Your electric bill must be crazy. Why do you collect arcade machines? If you follow my channel, you have no doubt seen or commented on all of my arcade machines that make up the background of most of my videos. And those are questions that I get all the time. Well, get ready with me while I address a lot of those questions and share my unique story that allowed me to collect over 20 arcade machines. And I'm sure for some of you, it's gonna be a bit unbelievable. So let's talk. What was the very first arcade machine I ever got, and how did I get it? The story of my collecting starts in a very interesting manner. I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, when arcades were booming. When we used to go and all huddle around the likes of Mortal Kombat 2 and Street Fighter 2, Final Fight, X-Men, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Simpsons. So even as a kid, I always wanted an arcade machine. I think this started in 1998 or 1999. There was a little physical publication that we had here in Northern California called the Penny Saver. Really, all it was just a little newspaper with tons of classifieds. In some cases, a lot of people that were just looking to get rid of stuff, sometimes for free. I flip open the Penny Saver one day, and I see somebody selling a Final Fight arcade machine. Yes, the one that's always over my left shoulder in most of my videos. $200 or best offer. It was in the town of Rockland, which actually isn't very far from where I was living. So I called the person from the ad and they said, sure, come on over. I might have some other stuff you would be interested in. Awesome. So I drove all the way out there, and to my surprise, it was actually just a big giant storage unit full of arcade machines. Why the hell did this guy have a storage unit full of arcade machines? That's because it was like the late 90s and arcades were on the decline. That's right. If you guys remember, by the late 90s, the home console market caught up with the arcade market. It had surpassed it. So the stuff that you were getting on your home console was way better than the stuff that you could go to the arcade and pay 50 cents or in some cases $1 to play. And you didn't have to wait in line. You didn't have to stick your quarters up on the machine. So here this gentleman is with, there had to have been 100 arcade machines in there. I was blown away. I had always wanted an arcade machine for my house. So I said, I would like to buy the Final Fight. Your ad says, or best offer, I'd like to make you an offer of $150 if it works. And he's like, oh, it works fine. Great. There's a catch, he says. I'll sell it to you for $150, but you have to take this one as well. And he points over in the corner, and it's a full-size arcade machine. I could see that there was no monitor in it, and it had no side art. It was painted black. I said, you mean you want to give me another arcade machine, and that's the deal? Yeah, okay, I'll do that. There was a game board inside of that arcade machine. It was a 4-player Ninja Turtles. He was a former operator. This is somebody who would buy tons of arcade machines and go place them in laundromats and pizza parlors and grocery stores and all that. People would spend their money on those machines, and then the operator would go around to all those machines once a week collecting the money. Back in the 80s and early 90s, it was good money. But by the late 90s, arcades were in massive decline. They were not making the money that they used to. And games like Final Fight and Ninja Turtles were certainly not bringing in any money. So he was just looking to get rid of these machines. In fact, he specifically told me that if I didn't take that cabinet, he was going to take it to the dump. I didn't want that to happen. That'd be terrible. So I gave him $150, and I proudly loaded up my new arcade machines. One being Final Fight, and one just being a cabinet with no monitor. It was painted black, but it did have the Ninja Turtles arcade in it. Now, he also had this big giant box of arcade boards. And if you know anything about arcades, the boards are the games. Just think of just a big giant cartridge, you know, without the nice plastic casing. It just looks like a big motherboard. about yay big. He had a box of them. He allowed me to pick 4 games out of that box. I think I picked Rampage World Tour, Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat 1, and the Simpsons arcade game. Some of my favorites. And again, if you know about arcade machines, if the cabinet you have has a JAMA harness in it, you can just swap these games out and play different games. So what I discovered on this trip was there were a lot of people looking to just get rid of arcade machines. So I went on a spree. The late 90s, early 2000s was the best time to obtain arcade machines if you were looking for them. You had folks who used to own routes that were just basically giving them away. You had people that had them in their home collections who didn't want to move them. Hell, I obtained a lot of my machines for free just by offering to go pick the machine up and move it. Now, between 1998 and probably 2005, maybe 2006, is when I obtained the majority of my collection of machines. All machines that hold a special place in my heart from my childhood. Now, I know what you're saying. I want to buy an arcade machine now. Well, the market has changed quite a bit. Just like we're seeing with stuff like VHS tapes and, in some cases, DVDs, a lot of things that were considered completely outdated and junk got pushed aside. A lot of them got thrown away or taken to the dump, and then eventually it swings back. By the time it swings back, some of that stuff is a lot more scarce because a lot of it got trashed and thrown away. So if you weren't in the business of saving arcade machines from their inevitable dumpster doom back in the late 90s, and you want one today, chances are you're gonna have to pay collector's prices. Now that doesn't mean you can't still find a good deal. I still see them periodically posted on stuff like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, if anybody still uses that. Now I will say a lot of the machines that are in my collection, I obtained them and they were not in working order. So I sort of had to learn how to work on these machines. And as time has gone by, parts for these machines, specifically the CRT monitors, have become very difficult and very expensive. There's conversion kits out there that allow you to convert it from a CRT to an LCD screen, but it is not the same. I don't have LCD screens in any of my arcade machines, and I don't know that I would ever put one in there. Which leads to the next question. What is the upkeep like? It really depends on how frequently you play the machine. But I would say in any given year, I probably have to repair at least 2 of my 10 machines that are in my room. The monitors need to be recapped, power supplies go out, the ROMs on the boards go bad. Stuff like that does happen, but it really depends on how frequently you play the stuff, which then leads into the next question. My electricity bill must be insanely expensive, right? Not really. I mean, granted, I don't keep the arcade on that often. When I shoot my videos, I do have the arcade on, and when I have friends over, I turn it on. But to be honest with you, I don't notice any difference in my electricity bill on months where I have heavy use of the arcade and months that I don't. I feel like something like a jacuzzi, fridge, or washing machine sucks way more power than these arcade machines do. So where does that leave you if you're building a game room and you want an arcade machine for your game room? Well, I get a lot of people that ask me what I think about Arcade 1-Up. If you haven't seen Arcade 1-Up, they reproduce kind of like slightly smaller versions of older arcade machines. When those first started coming out, I did buy a few. I own the Star Wars one. I think I own Rampage and Gauntlet. I bought the Simpsons 4-player one. I did buy both of the pinball machines. I wanted to see what they were like. And I think they're fine. They make a little riser for them that brings it up to what original height would have been. They're a little bit cramped, and they are on an LCD screen. So if you're looking for that real, true, authentic feeling, it's more like playing an emulator on your PC, except you do have it in this neat mini arcade cabinet, and all the art is there, which is cool. Arcade 1-Up has done a pretty good job of putting these packages together and making them look like they originally did when they were in the arcades. But if you want the real, authentic experience, unfortunately nowadays with the collector market and everything, you're probably looking at somewhere between $500 and $1,000 depending on which machine you want. And if you want a pinball machine, you're probably looking at least on the low end, $2,500 to $3,500. And on the high end, if you want something like a Funhouse or an Addams Family, you're probably looking at closer to 10 grand if you find a good deal. Luckily, I got my mid-90s Jurassic Park pinball machine at a super deal because it wasn't working at the time, and I did have to put a few $100s into it. But overall, because of when I bought the machine, I did pay substantially less than what somebody would pay nowadays for the same machine. So to answer the question that I do get a lot, I must be rich, right? Nope. I just happened to start collecting those machines at the right time. Most of them actually didn't cost me initially anything up front. The investment came in my time to fix them up and a little bit of money for parts. If you are looking to add an arcade machine to your collection now, my suggestion would be to keep checking Facebook Marketplace, stuff like Craigslist, but go out and look at yard sales because you would be surprised how often I have seen these machines at yard sales. People have them in their garages from when they were younger. They want to get rid of them. A lot of the time, they want to get rid of them really cheap. So the deals are still out there. But because of what happened during the arcade crash, there is a lot less of them. So, scarcity. Now the golden question, what was it that made me fall in love with arcade machines to begin with? Well, I actually addressed that in a previous video that you should watch right here. Spoilers, it was my grandfather. So if you could have any arcade machine or pinball machine for your collection, which one would you choose? Hit the comments. And if you have any other questions about my arcade collection, feel free to ask. I'm always open to shooting more videos on this topic because it is a topic that I love. And until then, enjoy the journey.